Fabric painting is a joy when you have a smooth fabric. And today we're using part one's fabric panel. I'll show you my fabric art using acrylic paint markers, how I set up for neck posture and easy pacing, the steps I took in the artwork, and then how to attach the panel to a garment. In my case, a soft t-shirt. I'm hoping my colourful hand-painted t-shirt will give lots of life to my wardrobe while keeping my clothes comfortable. This is an easily paced project, perfect if you have limited energy and need a project that brings you joy. You could even set up for the artwork in bed or on the couch if that's what you need. And the outcome is definitely Spoonie wardrobe approved. Easel for good neck posture to avoid pain. I used a piece of cardboard to cover it. It already had some markings from previous projects, so I covered that with butcher's paper. Then I taped it all together and used a Stanley trimmer to trim some holes at the top of my panel and used my pegs to hold the panel in place. I also ruled some parallel lines so that I would always keep level with my artwork. For my acrylic markers, I used, from right to left, gold and black Posca markers, some colours from the Vivid Life of Colour collection and the following groupings of colours from the Ocean, Wildflowers and Florals collections. The rationale for my artwork was to inject colour into my wardrobe, and I had this lovely scarf of lovely colours that I like, and I used that to have in mind to inspire my colours. Then I thought about a pattern that wouldn't be linear, it could be a little abstract, and there wouldn't be a definite up or down, so I didn't have to make it exactly straight if I made an error in my sewing. We're also coming into autumn over here, so I thought, yes, let's do some leaves. But you could do flowers and collect a whole bunch of shapes and layer them just like I did with the leaf shapes. So my first concern was just to sketch out those shapes. And I sketched them in the various colours I wanted to use, paying attention to the spread of colour. I wanted it to be relatively even. I then went and filled in the colour. I was also thinking, how would leaves lie beneath the sketched shapes? And so I began to think about the shapes and envision them lying underneath the prominent shapes in the foreground. And that's how I got even more colour spread. My last step was to outline in the black and inlay the yellow leaves with gold. You want to allow several drying sessions for your work, and that factors in very well for pacing. I put it out in the sun after I'd done my limit of capacity for the day. And here I'm taking it off after sitting for 24 hours to settle. You can see that I've done a really good job of soaking the fabric in ink. It's gone all the way through and it actually helped hold the panel up. It's also eliminated the stretch that was in that fabric, so I can confidently say you don't need to use a stretch fabric in your work, just keep it lightweight. This is the boring part, but it's very, very necessary. Remember, I have to turn my iron down because my fabric still has elastane in, even if it has reduced in its effectiveness. I don't want to scorch and shrink mine and wrinkle my fabric. So my setting is a little lower. Please use the highest setting that your fabric will afford. I've also used a cloth to protect it from scorching. And yes, blah, 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 it's quite boring. You need to have about 30 seconds on every part to be heat set. With trepidation, I also do go over it without the cloth to make sure it's set. Vliesofix, sometimes known as Bonder web, is literally this web-like thing I'm showing you here on a scrap. The web has come away from that backing paper, so you can see the web-like texture of it, and that is an adhesive. So it comes in a roll, and we're just going to roll out the amount that we need for our pattern, the panel pattern, and I'm going to trace around that. Once I've traced around it, I'm going to use my paper scissors, not my fabric scissors, because this is backed on paper, to cut out our shape. I am going to cut slightly inside the traced lines because this is an adhesive. I'm going to be using my iron to adhere it, and I don't want any glue coming out onto my iron or onto the surface. So my cut out piece of Vliesofix is going to be slightly smaller than my actual panel. Lie your t-shirt nice and flat and see where you want to have your artwork. Now you can do all sorts of folding and measuring, making sure that it is exactly symmetrical, but the easiest way I find is to go put it on your body and pin it while it's on your body. Once you've done that, come back and use chalk to trace around that panel. You'll also notice that I've inserted my cardboard piece into my t-shirt, and that's going to provide a stable base to iron this artwork onto the t-shirt. Check that your piece of Vliesofix is within the boundaries of your panel and trim up as necessary. Find the shiny side, that's the gluey side, and we're going to pop the artwork right side up directly on top of that Vliesofix. I'm also going to get some baking paper because that's going to protect my iron just in case we make a mistake. Unpin your panel, pop it on top of the Vliesofix and flip it around on top of your baking paper because it'll protect the board or anything underneath, and iron on the paper side of the Vliesofix. You need to iron for as long as it takes for it to adhere, and you can pretty easily tell that by trying to peel back the paper. If it doesn't peel off well, you haven't ironed it well enough, and you need to just go back and apply a little bit more heat. Once you've peeled off the paper backing, it exposes the second side of adhesive. Put that within the chalk marks on your garment and iron the artwork in place. You'll know how much heat you need to apply simply by how well the panel is adhered. So you can check the edges, and if everything is right, you're good. Otherwise, apply heat as needed. Could you end the process here, and would it be adhered well enough to the garment? Short answer is I've never tried it because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I like to finish things properly. So I'm going to go on and stitch around my edges. I'm going to use a straight stitch and I'm going to line up the edge of my presser foot with the panel, and that will keep my stitch line nice and straight and very close to the edge. Backstitch to start, of course, and I'll show you how to do the next corner in a close-up. My top thread is in a maroon colour because I thought that would make the colours glow a little bit more. My bottom thread is in black. So here's a corner. We approach and just use the hand wheel if needed to hit right on the corner, lift the presser foot, turn your fabric, put the presser foot back down, and then you'll sew again. And that keeps your corner super neat. Back to our normal view. There's our third corner, and we're almost finished. Straight stitching close to the edge, lining up the edge of my presser foot to get my straight line. And of course at the end, I will do a very neat small amount of back stitching to secure the ends and snip off the threads on the top and from the underneath. And that's it. Completely black with the black thread from the underside, and on the top we should have a perfectly straight edge all the way around the panel, which is slightly decorative with that maroon thread. Our two selvage ends are giving some textural dimension. The final product has a bright colourful print on it. The t-shirt is lovely and soft and kind, and it pairs really well with the more autumnal looks and pops of colour. And how hard is it to get a good t-shirt these days? Join me next time where I take you through how to make your own by cloning your own favourite t-shirt from your wardrobe. Until then, enjoy your comfy life.